I'm Wally Young, Bravo Company, 3rd Tank Battalion, 3rd Marine Division, 6768. Our company rear, as we call it, company rear was Camp J.J. Carroll. About 10 or 12 miles around Highway 9 is Camp Rockpile. I'll talk about those two places and start out I got there in October the 12th of 67. My first full day in Vietnam was the 13th, and it was a Friday. So they put me on a convoy and sent me up to Camp Carroll. So the place there, I didn't really do anything. We got incoming, and stuff like that. And there was a soldier that was blown up while another man and myself was going to the mess hall, field mess hall. Rocket hit. He disintegrated, didn't hurt neither one of us. I think he was in 175's Army at Camp Carroll. So I got sent on out to the rock pile in late November. So got out there and I was driving for my tank commander was Louis Ryle from Reno, Nevada. So he was a good Marine, one of the best. All crew members on his tank had just been killed except for him. So he was starting building up a new crew. So I was his driver. And our first bit of action was January the 13th. Like I say, other than normal incoming, stuff like that, escorting convoys, but it was a pretty big convoy, 12 to 15 trucks. Was having to take it to Kaloo, which is 9 miles down the road. Elephant grass, higher than the tank in a lot of ways. So we did what we call recon by fire. With a 90 millimeter shotgun round, we'd fire either side of the road. The lead tank, that's what I usually drove, would cover either side, everything on the front to 180. Tank behind him would cover one side and so forth on the back. Usually we either had 2 tanks or 4, sometimes more. But this particular time, I think we had 4 tanks, 2 in the front and 2 in the rear. Tank behind the lead tank was a flame tank, commanded by Corporal Thomas Yaks, who won the Bronze Star on this day. And anyway, our tanks were low on ammo, and they was all low on chow, ammo. We had to go. So got down there about 4 or 5 miles, and they hit them. There was a low bore loaded with all the big ammo, and no, the 6x had the 90 millimeter on it. It was behind the flame tank. Then a low bore with all kinds of small arms and mortars and stuff like that. Then everything behind that was Marines from 3rd Battalion, 9th Marine out of the rock pile. So what they did, they come out there with RPGs in hidden places and struck them 2 trucks in the front with RPGs in the vehicle itself, in the motor, and an RPG in the load. They killed the driver, and the shotgun rider was small arms. So when we realized that they had hit them, which they was right behind us, it didn't take much, so we started laying down a field of fire, everything for the front. So fired about 4 to 5 rounds across, shotgun round, canister, 90 millimeter shotgun. And it wasn't long. It was a lot of commotion. When you're running the road like that with 4 tanks, 15 trucks, a lot of dust. It was dry. The word was, before we left, we knew they was going to hit us. That's what they told us. We know they're going to hit us. When they do, grunts, stay on the trucks, and tanks, stay on the road and support the grunts. So when they initiated contact, like I said, then they had 20 men on this side of the road, north side, 5 feet off the road or right beside the road in spider holes, full automatic weapons. So when the convoy stopped by them trucks being hit and they're in the road, so naturally everybody had to stop. So that's when they They had a 51 caliber, a big mountain fingered down like this, and way out there, by the end of it out there, they had a 51 caliber machine gun. Well, he opened up, and the whole convoy, all he had to do was move it about this much, and he was raking the length of that convoy. So he ate the convoy up with that on one side, and then these 20 men in the spider hole, they got them too. So it was a lot of casualties. It was like they called 19 killed and 70-something wounded. But they went back the next day and found four more Marines. So that made it 23. And we killed about 20 gooks, and that was it, and captured 2. So we headed on. When they hit us, they just, main thing, they hit and they were gone. And they wanted to take casualties back to the rock pile, and they loaded our tank and wanted us to take them on the Callooh, so we would get them out both ways. And they called them for reinforcements. Well, the low boy, he called the colonel. It was pretty early on, and he was hit. He was up under the low boy. He was a forward observer. He was calling in grid coordinates for support, artillery, and around. And he radioed the colonel, said, "I need somebody to come up here and get me out from under this low boy. I'm hit, and I can't move." So the colonel, I was like, all over the radio, and the colonel come over and said, "Yeah, we'll get you." He said, "But I damn sure ain't fitting to stand up right now and run down there to get you." So that's what was said. And but he won the Bronze Star for doing what he did. And Corporal Yaks of the flame tank, they was right behind us, and them trucks were behind them, so that stopped the convoy. And our general operating procedure, what we like to do is keep the convoy moving and break on through an ambush if possible, instead of just stopping there and fight them. Keep the supplies, what we need to get the supplies in there. Keep moving. But we would stop temporarily, and Yaks jumped off, and he hooked his tow cables up to that 6x, which was the main one, and he moved it off the road. That allowed a lot of the trucks to come on through. A lot of them were disabled too. But anyway, they loaded our tank up with casualties on the back, told us to hightail it to Callooh, and there was choppers on the way to get the medevacs. Well, just as we started pulling out, I looked as far as I could to my right, and I seen 2 choppers coming in, low and fast. They shot both of them down. I could almost see the pilots' faces, and they crashed and burst into flames, one right after the other. So we took off and got on up there to Callooh. Tank was running like wasn't running good, and they was talking about the grunts were hollering the tank was on fire. So I wanted out of it, because if it's gonna blow up, I didn't want to be in it. But anyway, we made it on in there and got them grunts off and got them on the choppers and got gone. Well, it was I climbed out the driver's compartment. We had been shooting a 30 caliber, and it's right over the driver's head if you got the gun to the front. And as I was climbing out, they traversed the turret, and my intercom switch on this side, it just happened to move it back where I could talk to the crew. And I said, "Hold it. My head's up in there." So they stopped, and I got my head out. And then I crawled out, and the 30 cooked off, and it like got me. But anyway, we headed back to the ambush site. And we got back in there and started hooking up trucks. And one behind the other, we pulled 7 trucks. Wasn't running or nothing through 2 rivers back to the rock pile. And that was January the 13th of 68. And Route 9 coming through there was the North Vietnamese was wanting to stop everything going to Quai Son, which was on down the road 15, 20 miles or whatever. So anytime you come through the rock pile, the road coming through the rock pile was like this, and it turned 90 degrees, went down there in the bridge right there, and went down there and crossed the bridge and like that. So it was real sharp. Well, we had 2 convoys come in, going different directions. And they met. This was March the 14th, which is Valentine's Day. I didn't know that then, but I know it now. But anyway, they met, and everybody was stopped. Couldn't nobody move. Well, on that convoy, I was way back here bringing up the rear of the convoy. And we heard the commotion going up there. We knew what was going on. So we bogarted our way in there. And we got inside the compound where we could see everything. Lots of incoming. They were blowing up everything. And I told my tank commander, I said, we need to return fire. Where we stopped, we could look out there in the hills toward Quezon and see two positions about 1,000 meters apart that were doing the shooting. Now, what they were firing, I don't know, but we could see the flash. I told my tank commander, I said, we need to return fire, which naturally we couldn't shoot over our troops' head. So he was trying to get the lieutenant to find out if it's okay to do that. I was wanting to do it because we were just sitting there. A lot of stuff going on, and we could see the ones doing it, so we want to go to them. And that's what we did. The tank commander told me, he said, you go ahead and go and do what you want to do, and I'll gun. So he basically told me to take over the tank. So we went around, not the road was completely filled up with vehicles. Went around on the inside of the compound. Come down there close to the bridge. Well, them truck drivers, Marines and Army, they seen what was happening because we was the only thing moving at the rock pile, about 15 acres. And so they moved the truck. Continuous incoming. I counted at least 6 rounds, maybe 8, before we got down there to the bridge behind us. One of them positions out there was shooting at me or our tank moving. The other one was shooting at the bridge because they knew we had to cross it to get to them. Well, I got as close as you and I are, and a rocket hit right in the middle of the road and blew a big hole there, which I couldn't just go over, so I had to go around it to the left, which was right at the bridge, about 10 feet from the bridge. So when I got on the bridge, I had to do a hard left and get straight and then go again around that hole. But we run out there anyway. It was about, the tank will shoot 2.5 miles. Well, they were out there about 5 miles, what we figured, 4 to 5 miles. So we went out there, picked up a good position where we was within a couple of miles of them, started pumping HE rounds in there to them. We fired about 15 rounds, 7, 8 in each place. And the lieutenant come over there and he says, Wally, what do you need? And I said, we need some Hotel Echo, which is HE, more ammo. He said, we got it on the way to you. So they come up there and we reloaded and fired a few more rounds and went back to the rock pile. Everybody, when we got back there, the ones that hadn't already left, the convoy was moving, they knew we stopped that rocket attack. And that was the 14th of February of 68. Then I rocked on, and I went on R&R. While I was going on R&R, flying down to Nanang, a man, if he wasn't right next to me, it was one more between us. But they shot him from the ground, from behind us. And so I went on R&R, went to Tokyo, did my R&R and come back, and it come along, the lieutenant, Roger Lulai, was our platoon leader, and he said, Wally, you and Dale Reed and some more boys, Bravo 2-4 was our tank. The other tank was 2-5. So y'all take these 2 tanks, go down to the rock pile, to the Cam Low, and get up with some grunt. We didn't know who they were, what unit or nothing, but we went and got up with them. It took me over 50 years to find out what unit that was, but I know now. And but anyway, we went down and got up with them, and they was doing a big sweep around Cam Low out there by the river, about a mile north of Highway 9 coming through there, Cam Low Village, just on the west end of Cam Low Village. So we sit there for several days, and they didn't want the tanks out there because they make a lot of noise. And, sometimes they break down, but they wanted us to sit by the road and wait. And when they need us, they'll call us. So 2 or 3 days, everyone rocked on, and they come flying up there in a Jeep. Said they need y'all, and they need you bad. They had ambushed them crossing the river up there a mile from where we were sitting. So he pointed out a mountain to us in the horizon up there. Said that's where they're at the foot of that mountain. you can start shooting anytime. So we took off 2 tanks. I was in the lead tank, so we stopped, coasted to a stop, zoomed in on the mountain up there about midway, fired a HE round, and while we were starting to take off, his other tank come around, and he coasted to a stop. So he popped around, and that's the way we did. We were taking some of the pressure off of them like that. So we got about 1,000, maybe 800 meters from the mountain. I was going parallel to the mountain, not straight into it, till I felt and heard all the incoming ricocheting hitting the tank, small arm. So I did an immediate hard left, centered up on that mountain, and headed straight on in to the killing zone. And that's where they hit them, right in there. The other tank, when we got on in there to the river, we pulled right up in the killing zone. Started pumping HE all over that hill, in the 50 and the 30. And the other tank come around us to the right, and he did the same thing, but he had a long V-bottom gorge. Well, what they had set up there was they had the mountain running this way, and then they had the gorge. So that's what I would call a backwards L ambush, and that's one of the worst ones that you can run up against. But anyway, we sat in there and fired just about everything we had in our tank for ammunition, and then Marine lieutenant come up behind the tank and hollered and asked if we get some of his men out of there. So they loaded our tank up with wounded, and tank commander told me, he said, "I want you to turn around and haul us out of here." And which I knew from watching cowboy movies and all like that, and the Indians up in the hills, when they up above you like that, shooting right down on you, you don't turn around and just drive off. I mean, that tank looked good coming in there, wide open, dust, bullets flying and all that, but with a load of men on the back of it, driving out, and them shooting down on you all the time, that ain't good. I told him, I said, "I'm backing out." So we backed out 400, 500, maybe 600 yards. And I spotted a man out there that was hit, and he was down, and he'd get up, kept moving, trying to get out of the killing zone, down there close to the river. So where we was at, where I spotted the man, was like 11 o'clock by the clock system. Fire was coming from 2 o'clock, still heavy fire. So I hit my intercom and said, "We got a man down at 11 o'clock. Somebody needs to go get him," because the driver's not supposed to get out. Wouldn't nobody get out. Why? Too many bullets hitting the tank. Nobody didn't want to get out and go after him. So I grabbed my grease gun, 45 caliber submachine gun, my helmet, and I feel sure I had my flak jacket on, but I couldn't just climb out the front. It wasn't like that. I had to drop the escape hatch under the driver's seat, crawl out there and crawl to the back of the tank, and then come around on this side, which I was still in the clear. As soon as I got to the front of the tank, I was running as wide open as I could go. And I started a zigzag pattern, which we were trained all through our training. It's hard to hit a man running zigzag and fast. So I made it down there to him, but it was open terrain. Little scrub brush, bullets hitting all around, zing and pop and crack and all that. But I got to him. He was a black Marine laying there with a bad leg wound. The first thing he said was, "Leave me, man, I ain't gonna make it." Said, "I done lost too much blood. Y'all get on out of here while you can." By then I had dropped down and cinched his web belt, which he had placed above one knee, whichever one, I don't even remember which leg it was. But he had lost a lot of blood. He was soaked in blood. There was a chopper up there circling. He was up high, and the other one had went on back to land. And I knew that chopper, that pilot, was wanting to come down there to get us. I don't know how. I flagged him off somewhere. I'd done this or that. And I told that man, I said, "Yeah, you going to make it." I said, "I'm fit to get you out of here right now. You ready?" And just that quick, I bet I wasn't there a minute and a half. And I grabbed him and threw him up in the fireman's carrier, like we'd always trained. Carrier, man. Took off back to the tank, zigzag pattern. That's when they really tried to kill both of us then. There was a lot more fire. I think they were just waiting on me to get to him. But I made it back to the tank with him. And I went around that zigzag pattern in. I didn't go the same path. Same zigzag pattern, but a little different route. But I got around the tank and went to the rear of it. I tried to load him up there. Big pile of wounded laying up there. Couldn't get him up there. He kept falling off on me. So I was hollering for Max and Joe, which they were looking out like that, but they couldn't get out. Too many bullets hitting all around, hitting the tank. And so I tried a couple times to get him up on the back, and I couldn't get him, so I went around to the side, a little past the sprocket. And that's when I could see how big a pile it was up there. It looked like a pile of worms, like you dump them out going fishing. That's what it looked like. But I tried there and I couldn't. And I was desperate. And Max Hayes from Tennessee, he jumped out, grabbed him, me and them together, we got him up on the tank. So I was turned to go back under the tank to get back in the driver's compartment. And as soon as I turned to move, something dropped off the tank. And I caught it right there, the bottom part of a man's leg in a jungle boot. I looked up there, but I couldn't tell whose leg it was. So I just stuffed it up there where I knew it would ride. And during this time, I'm thinking, when I saw those men on the back, I was thinking of how much time did I actually spend to go get that man? And these men here, some of them could have died. I've always felt bad about that. But he was the last man. You don't leave a man behind. No Marine is supposed to leave another Marine behind. So it didn't take that long to go get him. But we got him loaded, backed up to the 2 choppers, loaded down, and got them Marines out of there. Then we went back in, the other tank come out with a load. We did that. 12 men were killed, 12 Marines killed from Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. 12 men killed, 33 wounded. So we backed out with most of them before the jets got in. When the jets come in, they started bombing and all that. But we had already gained fire superiority, and we're getting most of them casualties out before the jets ever got there. And they claim it was, I've heard anything from 177 to 400 North Vietnamese was killed. I don't really know the count myself. I know we killed a lot of them. While we were shooting on this side of the hill, the 3rd Marine Division, they flew some men from 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marine, landed over behind the hill, and they come up the hill and come over the top. While we were shooting, they asked us to drop our fire down. They come over the top, shooting them 60s and throwing grenades, getting them out of every little place they could get them. So that was May the 31st, 68, Camelot Village, Camelot River ambush. And the next thing is, I knew I was going to go to Vietnam, but I wasn't in a hurry. But I was just a young kid, 17 when I joined. So I waited till I was 19 before I volunteered to go. I volunteered. And but before then, I think it was in 66, we were going to Cuba. So they had either 7 or 12 of us that they put on there for train guard. We loaded tanks on the train. We'll haul them up to Morehead City where we put them on a ship, take them to Cuba. So we got up there and of course, Marines, we come to finally stop one time. There's a railroad crossing there and a little store up there. So we went up there and they had 11 cases of beer, and we bought all that and went back and got on the train. So by the time we got up there where the ship was going to come in, we were pretty tight. And so we just walked out there on the beach first, looking around, and all the tanks, I think it was either 5 or 7 tanks. I believe it was 7. They was all on the railroad car sitting down there, and the guy that was in charge was a sergeant from Birmingham, Alabama, named Frenchie. That's all I knew his name, but he finally says, "Young, get over there and unload that first tank." I said, "All right, Frenchie." So these were big tanks, 103 and 103A2s with a 120 millimeter cannon. They had a nuclear round for that tank at that time. The biggest tanks America had then. So Charlie Company, 2nd Tanks. So I went over there and got in the driver's compartment, and I done drank several beers, like everybody else. I was feeling pretty good. Young boy, ain't never rode a train with a bunch of tanks on it or nothing, so I was pumped up and got in there and cranked it up, and I put it in drive and give it a little bit of throttle and just done like that. I was like, something wrong here. So I put it in low and I just flow boarded it. When I did it said boom like that. We hadn't taken none of the cables that had it dogged down. We didn't unhook none of those. So it just busted them loose like Hercules. And I drove off of there. I run out there, it was like all beach, but the water wasn't there yet, but I just went straight out for a while and started turning to my left. And I got to thinking, man, I can't believe you did that. And that tank was strong. I started turning from the left, and I couldn't wait till I got far enough to look back and see what the other tankers were doing. So I was going to make a big circle. When I got out there where I turned far enough and I can see, every one of them done the same thing. Just boom, boom. Busted all the chains, cables, whatever they had on them.
Oh my gosh.
Busted all the rigging. I just started going in a big circle. And when we all got in that circle, we started going around and around and started moving in closer and closer. And we got about that far, all the tank commanders traversed their guns to the center. But then you had all them tanks going around like that with the guns pointing. We narrowed it down till we had maybe 10, 15 feet wide and had jumped out. There wasn't no word said. When we did that, everybody knew what was happening. Jumped out and grabbed the tarps, tied them all the way around. So we had a huge tent with a place for the fire go right up through the middle. And that's where we camped for several days till the ship come in. Well, we did take the tank up there one time, one night, and I was driving. I went up there in a bar up there on the highway, and we stuck the gun tube in the bar in the front door. And my buddy hollered in there, hey, y'all got any beer in there? People that own the bar, they said, yeah, we got beer, but just leave your tank out there if you will. We went in there and drank a couple of beers and then, backed the tank out just to say we did it, But anyway, the grunts, after we did that, they sent the MPs out there to watch us, and they fenced us in. They had a gate, we were locked in then because we did that. We run a few civilians out of the water, off the beach, but we wasn't going to hit nobody or nothing. And anyway, the grunts, they wanted to drive them tanks. So we let them drive them a little bit, And somehow they got down there and we were missing a grease gun, 45 caliber submachine gun. I don't know whatever happened to it, but I didn't get it. None of us. I think them grunts, because they said, man, they like that submachine gun. But anyway, they run a 6x. You know what a 6x is? It's a 5-ton truck with 8 of them big wheels, four sets on the back, 2 in the front. Somebody run it off right where the ship come in. And they said, hey, don't worry about it. It's so deep there, they won't never even, it won't have no effect for the ship coming in there. They didn't worry about that 6x. We didn't tell nobody. And they never did say nothing about it, but they was looking for that grease gun. But that's about it. Semper Fi, Marine tankers. I'll rattle off a few names if you don't mind. Jeffrey Griffith, New York. Or no, Pennsylvania or New York. And he's gone now. He's one of my best buddies over there. And Louis Rao, Reno, Nevada. Roger Lulai from Columbus, Ohio. James Laddie from Oklahoma. Danny Wadsworth, Idaho. Sioux Falls, Idaho. And Max Hayes from Dyersburg, Tennessee. Terry Hunter from Columbus. Guy Wolfberger from Columbus. I know so many of them, but Sergeant Kent Baldwin from Corpus Christi, Texas. Joe Hernandez from Corpus Christi. But that's just a few names. Semper Fi, Marines. Hoorah.